All right. Hey, ladies, happy Monday. I hope you're having a wonderful, amazing freaking day. This is Ladies Let's Button Those Jeans again, where we talk about all things to do with healthy, sustainable, sane weight loss, right? Where we're feeling good in our minds, we're feeling good in our bodies. And what does that take? What do we actually need to do? What do we need to change in the way that we're thinking, acting, feeling to make it so that we can feel good in our bodies, good in our clothes, good in our minds? This is everything to do with how we button those jeans and feel great in our clothes or without our clothes as well. Every week I do something, right? I come live in here and talk about some concept or some idea that is relevant to you on your, whether it's tips, tricks, ideas, mindset, like guidance, whatever it is, this is what you're looking for. And how do I know that it's relevant to you on your journey? Well, if you're in here, you're interested in weight loss. And the first time that I noticed that there was something different about the way that I eat in my relationship with food, I was about 8. At 10, I went to fat camp. I gained and lost 50 pounds like 6 times in my life. I've done all the diets, all the things. And over that course of that journey of my own journey, my own desperation of trying to find some relief, like there has to be some. And I do all these diets and I can get the weight off, sometimes with more success than other times, depending on what's going on. But like, how do I keep it off? And then there was times where I lost weight, but I didn't actually feel comfortable and confident in my body like I thought that I was going to. And all of this frustration and all of this years of confusion finally led me to meet a man who introduced me to hypnotherapy. And that was one of the things that just transformed my entire life. My relationship with food is understanding how my mind actually works, how my brain works, how my conscious and my subconscious work together, and why all of these habits had, like, how they had been formed, and then how to change them and make them different so that I didn't have to suffer anymore. And when I found relief from this, it was like, oh, dang, I have to share this. Like I can't, there's too many people suffering. So I have to figure out a way to communicate the experience that I had, communicate this understanding and this knowledge so that you can have the relief too. And that's what I've been doing for the last 14 years, is figuring out that way to come and share with you. So if this resonates with you, drop me a line, let me know so that I'm not just like a talking head out here. This is for you. And so let me know in the comments if you relate to anything that I'm saying, or if you have a question, whether it's like, I don't believe this and this is why, or right on, you're totally like in the direction, give me more of that. I want to know what it is that you need so that I can provide incredible value for you, so that you can live your life comfortable and confident in your body too. So today we're going to be talking about something really interesting. So I often get people coming to me, and of course, like we all think that we know what we need to do, right? It's like, I need to eat better and I need to exercise more. So I need motivation and I need willpower. And like, maybe I need some accountability, but I'm kind of scared, right? Like, I'm not sure who to trust. I'm not sure what direction to go in. I'm not sure who's telling me the truth. Every time I start to do one diet, there's like 15 other things that are the new rage and the wave and the magazines and the shiny object over here. And I'm just not even really sure what is going on. I don't have the time to invest in trying to figure all of this out. So like, what is happening? So sometimes we do talk about food, but today we're going to be talking about specifically this idea that we need, first of all, to change the way that we eat, eat less and exercise more. And this idea that we need motivation and willpower to do both of those things. Now, this is the crux of the problem. We don't need to eat less. We don't need to exercise more. And we don't need to somehow motivate ourselves or get willpower from some magical place. These are like how you get motivation, how you increase your willpower, and then what you actually need to do with more motivation, more willpower is not eat less and exercise more. This is how we end up in this rat race cycle of going from diet to diet to diet to diet to diet to cleanse to detox to diet to cleanse to detox to diet to making ourselves freaking crazy. and never actually settling into this body, never actually feeling comfortable and confident. That's like my tagline, comfortable and confident. Now, obviously, do you live every second of your life comfortable and confident? No, that's not life, right? But when it comes to confident with your food choices, confident in your body, comfortable in your body, now those are things that are totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. Now, I can't fix all the problems in your life, nor does any one technique or person fix all the things in your life. We are responsible for our own selves. And that's actually where we're going to get to today. And one of the problems that we're not really understanding the way that our subconscious mind works, the mind works to begin with, is that there's actual blocks, like literal resistance and self-sabotage. And it's not that we're wrong or that we're bad or that, whatever the dramas and traumas of the past were, like literally just the brain, the way that the brain works. There are actually several reasons not to change. And it doesn't even matter what it is. It doesn't matter if the change is good. It doesn't matter if it will benefit your life. It doesn't matter if you really, really want it. There are natural mechanisms in the way that the conscious and the subconscious mind speak to each other and work, that if we do not understand these, we end up fighting an uphill battle. We're dragging that dead horse to the water and wondering why it's not drinking. And the way that the subconscious mind works is always in a state of protection, always. Like literally its job is to keep you alive. It keeps your heart beating. It keeps you breathing. It keeps your cells regenerating. There is an incredible amount of wisdom and beauty that is happening underneath the surface of what we're just able to look and see and smell and taste and touch and have emotions and feelings about, that is protecting our survival. And so when we begin to understand that change requires that we do act, behave, be something different that is outside of the comfort zone. And anytime that you go outside of your comfort zone, even as uncomfortable as the comfort zone might be, like, hey, Rose, I need to lose 100 pounds. Sorry, that's not comfortable. Yeah, but the habits and patterns that got you to that place are those habitual habits and patterns are what is familiar, which is what is comfortable. And that familiarity, it feels safe. And so when they say that the pain of staying the same has to be greater than the fear of change to actually take positive action in a way that's actually going to be helpful, that's what they're talking about. It has to be, and everyone's frame of reference of like what actually, like how much pain that is totally different, right? Some people gain 10 pounds and they're like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Like, just show me the way, right? Where's the door? I'm knocking on it. And some people, it's like, it's 30, 40, 50 pounds, lose a 30, 40, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds. It doesn't matter. Like everyone's frame is a little bit different, like what is comfortable and what those habits and patterns are. So there's this really cool book that I wanted to share with you. It's called Why We Change and 10 Reasons Why We Don't. I really love this book. It's by a guy named Ross Elhorn, and it's wonderful. He talks a lot about what happens, what needs to happen for us to actually make a positive change that isn't just fighting, forcing it to happen, and then hoping that we feel different when we get there. And he says the reason not to change, number one, is that staying the same protects you from your aloneness and accountability. That change always makes you face your aloneness and accountability. It's an unavoidable fact about change. On the road from where you are at to where you want to be, it's you, no one else, putting one foot in front of the other. And as I went on to read this, I started to consider my own life and my own self-sabotage, if you will, this reason not to change that came up so many times in my life that I would have to actually be responsible for my own actions. I could no longer blame it on my life, my circumstances, my choices on other people. And for a really long time, I blamed my choices, my life, the way that I felt about myself on my parents. It was their fault. If they wouldn't have done this or said this, or they did this differently, or they gave me more of that or less of this, or whatever it is, told me to do it differently, somehow, some way, that then I would be okay today. And I'm not okay because of the choices that they made. And it was a really long time before I kind of came into my own and realized that that is not the truth. They might have had some effect for a while in terms of the way that my brain works, but I am still accountable for my own self. And that was really, really hard for me to grasp that. And, it's so interesting, this whole idea of, putting the blame on other people and how common that is. It's probably about 90% of women that are overweight are somehow, some way putting that responsibility on somebody else under the label of caring for them, right? It's like, well, no, I have to go and do this thing. I have to eat that thing that the people, made for me, even though I know it doesn't work for my body and it sends me on a crazy binge, right? But they made it for me. I don't want them to feel bad. So I'm caretaking for somebody else, right? Or this person needs me, the work needs me, the job needs me, the kids need me. There's always something, maybe it's even a vacation. Sometimes it's fun stuff that we deflect, right? Oh, well, I'm going on vacation. Oh, well, I have this party. Oh, well, this thing is going on. And there's always something of some reason why taking care of this body, this mind, this life that we were given, our real only responsibility, is somehow gets pushed to the back burner. There's always some reason and excuse outside out there, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's people, whether it's relationships, whatever it is. And the reality is it feels alone to make a change sometimes, right? Because you have to change. You are suddenly aware of like all the things that you're doing that maybe aren't necessarily working for you. And, it was really interesting. The other day, my son it was his friend's birthday. It was a new friend, right? Like we haven't actually hung out yet. It's on his basketball team. So it's like this kid that he kind of wants to impress. He's like the best player on the team. And he looks up to him. My son looks up to him. And it was his birthday the other day. And my son is gluten-free and also like, aware of his body. He actually always has been. I remember I took him to a birthday party one time when he was 3 and we came home and he said, "Mom, cupcakes make my wrists hurt." And this is before I knew anything about nutrition. I was like, that's weird. Like, what a weirdo. That doesn't even make sense. Cupcakes don't make people's wrists hurt. Actually, they do. But well, that's a whole nother topic. But I just kind of like poo-pooed it. I was like, whatever, that's weird. That's totally weird. Well, years later and all kinds of tests and health issues and all kinds of stuff, we came to find out that he's gluten sensitive. And so he doesn't eat gluten. I mean, like occasionally, because he's a kid and he's like, I have to have that thing. But like for the most part, he doesn't. And that's his own choice and his own self because, right, I educated him, gave him the option and the choice to do an elimination diet. And he did it. And he was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And then he went back to eating the way that he was. And then he felt like crap. And he was like, this is awful. I don't want to do it. So it was like his own self, not just his mom telling him what to do, which is like so cool. So this kid had these like cakes. And so my son was like telling him about like, oh, no, I don't eat that. I'm gluten-free. Like it, bothers my body, blah, blah, blah. And the kid like gave a weird face and he was like disappointed. Right. And my son really wanted to like impress him and like not make him feel bad that he wasn't eating his cake. And so he grabbed a fork and he took a bite. And of course, he wakes up the next morning and his face is all puffy and he doesn't feel well and he's got these allergies and like whatever his symptoms are. And, I had to bring that up as a conversation, as part of the conversation of when we really own our own stuff, it can sometimes feel alone. We are accountable. He's not accountable to that kid. He's not even accountable to me. That's his own life, his own body. Right? He's only really accountable to himself. I can help him. I can guide him. But at the end of the day, it's just him. right? He goes to bed at night, it's him. He wakes up in the morning, it's him. Same with all of us. And so really we're accountable to our own selves, regardless of what anyone else says or does or doesn't do or doesn't say or whatever it is. And so I had a conversation with him. I was like, hey, I wanted to talk about what happened yesterday with that kid and like kind of get your perspective on it. And he admitted that he wanted to impress him, that he felt bad and that, you know, he didn't want him to feel bad. He wanted to bond with this kid. And so he put something in his mouth that doesn't work for him. And I was like, dude, I totally get it. And we talked about peer pressure and what it means to like get caught up in the moment of what everyone else is doing so that we can feel a part of. Now, ladies, this is huge. This is not, isolated to a 12-year-old and a friend. This is what we all do. When we make a change, it changes the dynamic inside of us. And sometimes, and especially at the beginning, we can feel alone, and the accountability is to ourselves. And that is exactly why groups like the one that I put together in my coaching group, which, by the way, we're talking more about that in the weeks to come, is so vitally important. It's because our subconscious mind, as we're making changes, needs support. It needs guidance. It needs help. It needs to know that it's not actually alone. It needs to have that accountability from the people around them that are also making changes and going in that same direction. Doing it on our own, it's not the same. It's just not the same. So, oh man, it is so incredibly intense. Like, I just have so much respect and love for anyone and all of us that are struggling, and anyone and all of us that are wanting and desiring for it to be different, have even like a smidgen of hope that like this can be possible. Like, we can live with serenity around food and peace of mind around food and feeling comfortable with our choices and confident in our body and not feeling alone, even though in the beginning it's this weird mush of trying to figure stuff out as we're making a change, that it is totally possible. And it's actually one of the things that the guy talks about in the book, is that we begin to have some hope when we hear a story of inspiration, when we see someone's before and after photos side by side, or you hear me talking about having suffered for so long and not suffering anymore. And it's like, okay, there's this semblance of hope that maybe this is possible for us too. And the hope it lures in, though, all of the memories. And again, this is literally the way that the brain works, right? It remembers all the times that we failed to keep us from the pain of those failures before. It doesn't want us to feel that pain. So the hope then lures in this possibility of disappointment and remembers all the times that we failed. And then all of a sudden we get anxious, and the anxiety can cause us to eat, because sugar and flour and overeating soothes anxiety. So we eat, and then that can cause a bit of a depression, right? Especially if we're overeating sugary, fatty foods. And then, our brain and our dopamine and our liver, and it gets all backed up, and then our gut microbiome gets all weird, and then we get depressed. And then we're like, oh God, I just need the motivation. I just need the willpower, but we're depressed and it just seems all overwhelming and I don't want to do it. And then that subsides once we get a little bit of hope, and we end up in this like circle and this cycle over and over and over again. And it's like, oh my God, of course, we somehow, some way, we've got to break out of this cycle. And having this kind of understanding, ladies, this is so profound and powerful. I hope that you replay and listen to this whole thing again. I hope you get that book. I hope you keep coming back to these sessions, because every little bit of more that we understand, it softens the edges around that. It takes the edge off and allows us the ability to move through with a little bit more grace. Now that we have the understanding, we have the words to express and to understand our experience. And then we know what the things to look for. And we can notice if we're in that cycle of having the hope and then being lured in the fear of the disappointment, which causes anxiety, which causes us to eat, which causes depression. And we end up back in this cycle. It's like, oh my God, That's it. That's totally freaking it. All right. Where do we put a cog in that wheel and backtrack and actually just step off, just completely step off of that and have a new frame of reference and a new understanding and a new pathway where we're not stuck in this, like, I need to eat less and exercise more. Where's my willpower? Where's my motivation? We don't need any of that. Okay, ladies, I love you so, so, so very much. So remember to leave me a comment, leave me a like, message me directly, right? How did this resonate with you? Where have you found yourself on that cycle of hope leading to the fear of the failure and the disappointment, which then leads to anxiety, which then leads to eating, which then leads to depression? Right? Do you resonate with that? I want to know. I want to know. All right. I love you so much. I hope you're having a great day. And we will see you next week with the number 2 reason not to change. We're just going to keep going through these and educating ourselves so that we have more knowledge, more wisdom, more experience, so that next step forward becomes clear. That's what I want for you. I love you.